about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So President Trump, in his presser a week or two ago, as it pertained to pregnant women and Tylenol, he decided to go out of his lane and give medical advice. Listen, Trump, stick to the money. Money. Right? Stick to national security. Stick to getting the hostages out. Okay, I would not. You don't have to go into the doctor lane. Okay, you hired some good doctors. Let them, handle this. But he was frustrated with the shots that were polyvalent, multiple, like MMR. The MMR varicella vaccine, which gave not only MMR but chickenpox coverage, that got phased out because there was a smaller risk of febrile seizures, kids getting seizures after their temperature would rise pretty quickly, febrile seizures, not necessarily epileptic seizures. And so the combo shot that had, both the MMR, or including the MMR, the measles, mumps, rubella, as well as the chickenpox, that got phased out. And so based on those concerns, he goes, why then is the MMR a combo? Why aren't we splitting those up? And so, MMR has been around for a while. Very safe. There are side effects, as with everything. Guillain-Barré, thrombocytopenia, just like with any vaccine. And so it's not that illogical to question, is it safer to do a single shot versus a combo? The problem is these kids are getting so many shots as it is. Every time you inject, that could bring infection. That's another shot. So I'm actually a fan. If it's safer, if the combo is safer and less side effects than 3 separate ones, I support the combo. But I guess what's happening now is people are questioning, well, is it safe? Now, or is it safer to do the combo, or is it safer to individualize the vaccines? The problem is parents are already, kind of feeling a little overwhelmed with all the vaccines their kids are getting. And now on top of that, you're tripling one that they get, at a year and at 4 years old, the MMR, and that might be just too much. In fact, that's why we already have parents ripping their kids out of school and homeschooling, because with the COVID vaccine on top of the mix, it was the last straw. And these parents are like, I'm done. It's too many vaccines. I'm not convinced that this is all for our best interest and not the pharmaceutical company best interest. And these parents are freaking out. So I think you start to split up the MMR, that could freak them out. The acting director, CDC director, Jim O'Neill, has called on vaccine manufacturers to develop separate shots for measles, mumps, rubella. And he wants the MMR vaccine replaced with safe monovalent vaccines. Now, some doctors are in support of this. Why? Well, you do have many parents that, as I've said, the unvaccinated population, if you ask them, what of the vaccines, which one is making you not want to vaccinate your child? The number one vaccine they bring up is the MMR. I mean, I've even had parents come in when I had my clinic where they'd say, look, I want tetanus, I want hepatitis vaccine, but I don't want the MMR. And so people have been very fearful of the MMR. They debunked the study in the 90s about autism. Somehow somebody thought the MMR was causing autism rates, and then that got debunked. But still, people have this hesitancy. And so one advantage some doctors are looking at is if you do have parents that do want the child vaccinated for measles, but they don't want the rubella or the mumps part of it all, then at least we could give people the measles vaccine. And that's something that I didn't realize was going on. Because when first I heard it, I'm like, guys, just kind of leave well enough alone. We do need to figure out why we have rising child autism. We do need to, make sure that vaccines are safe. We do need to make sure we're not over injecting kids. So I agree with us looking at that. But I was like, Trump, I need you to stay in your lane just until you get the hostages back and we get everything else in order. Stock market's going up. You're doing some good things. Just leave leave it to us doctors. We doctors will handle, this. But we have a lot of individuals who are a little nervous about this. Measles comes back. Measles is making a comeback. And it is making a comeback in some vaccinated individuals. And so when I talk to some parents about this, they're like, can I just get a measles booster? I'm like, no, you need to, you'll get it through the MMR. They're like, why don't we have just a measles vaccine? I don't want the whole MMR. I just want the measles to boost. And that is an interesting argument. So I do agree that we should have an ability to have the single vaccine if we need it. I think there was even a vaccine where they even combined hepatitis and then they separated it out. So it's not that uncommon to consider separating out. Just we've had the MMR for decades and we're comfortable with it. But I do agree that we should also in our arsenal have the separate individual shots. I don't think it hurts. And I think a pharmaceutical company should be able to look at that. And what's also very promising about something like that is if we do then find that of the MMR separated, we see more issues with one vaccine than another. Okay, well, then we could kind of break down now what's going on here. And so you're seeing parents refuse all three. Maybe we need to study those more. And maybe the only way to study them is to separate the three. So now, as of now, I prefer the combo. I think parents can swallow that better. I think it has enough proven safety. But I do agree that pharmaceutical companies should make sure we have if we need it. Because I'm really getting the feeling that a lot of us don't have enough measles protection from the older vaccine now that we have newer strains where we could boost with the measles vaccine separately. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, don't go away. Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's fantasy football pocket guides for beginners. Don't be left out.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hotshot Secret, powered by science.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media.
are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Twitter or X, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So a question I often get in various different forms is my spouse cheating when X, Y, and Z? Now, some of these X, Y, and Z's they're in touch with an ex on Facebook or Instagram. Or they, appear to like somebody or be thinking about somebody that's not me. Is it cheating to have a backup? Where you have a close friend, lady friend, guy friend, just in case you get dumped, that you could then have as your backup spouse. Is that cheating? So the answer is yes and no. And it depends on, what your definition of cheating is. I mean, to me, if you're fantasizing, and you're hoping to be with somebody else other than the person who you said your vows to, then whether it's mental or physical, that's a form of cheating. On the other end, is it very common and in human nature to love more than one person and to be faithful, but to think about somebody else? Now, it's very common. It's not, shall we say, legal in some religions, but it is a common thing, and nobody really wants to talk about that because they can't, because the wife will be like, what? Or hubby's like, excuse me, what are you talking about? And so this nobody talks about it. I get to hear some of it as a doctor and as a radio host, because they're like, well, my husband does this and my husband does this. Do I have to be worried? Do I? And so what I would tolerate in my marriage is not what I would expect, or not tolerate is not what I would expect with you. Like, for example, I don't, I know a lot of people will not tolerate porn, will not tolerate, if all the guys are doing a bachelor party and they're going to a strip club, there's many wives that would not, tolerate that. Me, I'm like, fine, just, don't spend a lot of money. I mean, my husband doesn't go to strip clubs much, now that his friends are older and nobody's getting married, but my only rule is don't be tipping 20s. Okay. Don't be wasting money on, yeah, but that just didn't bother me. It didn't bother me if he looks at, like if there's a rated R movie and there's, the naked woman, I don't think he's looking at that as going, oh, well, I wish I had that instead of Daliah. I don't feel that way. Maybe it's because I'm very confident. Maybe it's because I'm very secure with the relationship, and maybe it's because, I'll look at Michael Fassbender and go, and I don't even try to hide it from my husband. The Band of Brothers, we saw Band of Brothers years ago, and my husband was rewatching it, and I go, God, that guy looks like Michael Fassbender. And I decide to IMDb, see who's in the movie, and it looks like Michael Fassbender, one of his early roles was in Band of Brothers. So I go to my husband and I go, Michael Fassbender was in Band of Brothers? He goes, yeah. I go, we need to watch a whole series again. He's like, are you kidding me? So he knows I like Michael Fassbender. Doesn't hurt our marriage. I'm not cheating on him. I'm not going to leave him. But yeah, I had to re-see the whole Band of Brothers and then try to find where I saw Michael Fassbender as a young man in the 2000s. So, it's not that uncommon to, look at a celebrity and go, that person's hot. What would it be like if I got to be, with that celebrity? That's not, fantasies happen. And married couples have to understand that there could be those fantasies. Where my concern is, if there is a friend or an ex, okay, being a woman, for me, nesting is a big part of our DNA. Not to stereotype women, but for those of us motherly types, we nest. And we need to make sure that nest is strong and can withstand storms, both allegorically and literally and figuratively. And so I need to know that home is not going to be wrecked by somebody else trying to come into the nest, because I will kick her butt out of that nest faster than she can blink. And so if, my husband has a friend, or, if he talks to somebody, or if there's an ex that reaches out on Facebook, luckily I feel very, comfortable and he feels comfortable. I mean, I'm friends with exes, and partially because some of the exes were actually my husband's friends. I dated a couple of my husband's friends before we actually dated. So that, was, something that was kind of, so anyway, and honestly, I am so glad I'm not with either of them. There's a few of them. Actually, there's three. But listen, my husband wasn't ready to settle down. And so, by the time I finally started, I didn't start seriously dating my husband until medical school. Well, in college, I'm going to be dating, and it just so happened because we went to the same school that we ended up dating with friends. But that's okay. I was still a good girl. I don't want to dig myself a bigger hole than I'm at. But if you talk about it, you communicate with it. I go, I dated him. We went out a couple times, whatever. I met his mom. That was about it. If you're honest about that and you're very transparent, it's fine. Now, what about the subject that nobody wants to talk about, where they really want to have a backup, or they're with somebody that isn't necessarily somebody that they are the most attracted to? And so one concept we have in society is sometimes the best husbands and the best wives, or the best spouses for you, the best partner, is not necessarily your soulmate or the person you're the most attracted to. Now, the ideal relationship is the person you are the most attracted to is the one you end up marrying and spend the rest of your life with. But that's not always the case. And in fact, a lot of us women learned that finding, just because somebody is the jock, with the 6-pack or 12-pack, and all the girls are flocking around him, just because you want to date him, that might not be the most perfect husband. See, for me, I didn't want to marry somebody who I thought women would always try to go after. I just didn't need that hassle. Now, women have. I mean, I remember seeing patients try to, flirt with my husband, and, shirt falling off the shoulders, showing part of the bra and that kind of stuff. And I just laughed it off, and that's, fine. But, Corey was the best husband for me. One, I was very attracted to him. One, I loved him. He was the love of my life. But my gosh, best father ever. Well, the best mom might not be the typical party girl. Size 2 with the best curves. Some of them might be. And so who you decide to have a life partner with is crucial for success. But sometimes with that is you might be attracted to other types. So how do you do that without cheating? Well, I would suggest, because I'm not a priest, I'm not a rabbi, I'm not a spiritual leader, I don't want you getting in trouble with your religion. But, my job is just to say, I commonly see this. I'm not saying it's right by any means, but I commonly see people are like, look, I married them. I'm glad I married them. They're great with this, but I don't know if this is the person I really, want to be with the rest of my life. And I hate to see people divorce after they have their kids, after they have their career, and go, okay, I'm good. I'm done. Now I don't. And unfortunately, we see that happen. Is it a midlife crisis, or is it, what? I want somebody young, vibrant, and, thank you, Mom, but, for being a good mom, but I want, I want eye candy. Who knows? And it's a shame, because I've seen people dumped that shouldn't be, and now they're older and they feel like they gave their best years to somebody who didn't stick with them. So, cheating is bad. Possibly breaking the integrity and hurting the integrity of the nest is bad. but are fantasies common? Now, can a fantasy be innocent? I'm not here to answer spiritually or religiously, but it does have, as long as people kind of put it into perspective, make sure they're not violating their religion, and as long as your husband's on board with rewatching all of the Band of Brothers, you can make it work. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, don't go away. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So we have some breaking news today. A 29-year-old Uber driver has been arrested in connection to those horrible and deadly Palisades fires that took place in Southern California in January. Jonathan Rinderknecht was charged with maliciously starting the catastrophic fire, according to Acting U.S. Attorney Bill Esseley. The complaint alleges, according to Daily Mail, that Rinderknecht started a fire in, I got the hiccups, in Pacific Palisades on New Year's Day. I got the hiccups, I'm sorry. The blaze eventually turned into one of the most destructive fires in L.A. history. I think 12 people died, widespread destruction, billions of dollars of damage, memories lost, and it was just horrific. Among the evidence that was collected from his digital devices was an image he generated on ChatGPT depicting a burning city. This guy is one sick son of a... Officials, Rinderknecht asked the AI in July 2024 to make an image showing a hellish fire scene where people were watching the world burn down, watching the people struggle. They were laughing, enjoying themselves, and dancing. You see how I really have less hope for humanity when you have people like this roam our society? This guy is sick in the head. Officials said they believe the Palisades fire was a holdover fire, a continuation from the Lockman fire, allegedly started by Rinderknecht. Rinderknecht was arrested in Florida, according to officials, and I guess he is going to be in court today, around right now, I believe. He was charged with destruction of property, according to Daily Mail, by means of fire, a felony that carries a mandatory minimum 5-year prison sentence and is punishable for up to 20 years. The fire that erupted on January 7th killed 12 people, destroyed more than 6,000 homes and buildings in the Pacific Palisades. You also had the Malibu fires. You had you had multiple other fires that ended up then resulting from the wind and the debris and unfortunately, or possible copycats. So detectives said that they say the Rinderknecht was a former resident of the Palisades, apparently lit the fire with an open flame like a lighter. He did this after he completed an Uber ride. He said 2 of his Uber passengers The complaint against him said two of the Uber passengers on the night of December 31st said he seemed agitated and angry. And this is why I really don't Uber a lot. I don't know who I'm getting into a car with. I'm just, maybe I'm old school. I just kind of feel like there could be somebody really, really sick that I'm exposing myself to. I don't know. But detective said that at about 11:28 that same night, Rinderneck listened to a song by French artist Jossman with themes of despair and bitterness. The music video for the song shows Jossman lighting things on fire. They said he allegedly listened to the same song 9 times in 4 days and watched the music video 3 times over the same time period. He made several unsuccessful 911 calls repeatedly on January 1st after starting the fire. Now, I'd like to know what that's about. Unsuccessful 911 calls. What does that mean? They ignored him? Is it that he didn't get through? Or did he hang up before he could give them information? That I'd like a little bit more clarity on. He fled the scene of the original fire, returned to the same trail where he had been earlier to watch it burn. During an interview with investigators, he lied about his location, claiming he was near the bottom of the hiking trail. Authorities first interviewed him on January 24th, according to the criminal complaint. He told them he had been in the area on January 1, but did not see anybody else in the area at the time. The criminal indictment noted, they say that the suspect's neck artery would pulsate and become visible whenever he was asked a question about how the fire started. It's interesting. People have asked me about lie detector tests. You know, they look at your pulse, blood pressure, you know, and changes. But yeah, a pulsating neck artery from the epinephrine. That's interesting. So they watch you when you take this. It looks like they're just writing down answers, but they're watching you. It's crazy. So investigators excluded other possibilities like fireworks, lighting, and power lines. Authorities also looked into whether a cigarette could have caused a fire, but concluded that was not the cause. I am blown away at how they could take a forest fire or a wildfire, and I know how they could find the source or find, the ground zero. But to be able to find evidence of something that could have been burned to a crisp. And unfortunately, you have individuals who kind of know how the system works, where they might just light a leaf. But then the investigators can deduce that as well. They can induce if it was something where somebody tried not to leave evidence, and they're pretty smart. So L.A. Mayor Karen Bass, she was out of town when this happened, and then she got backlash, so came back into town, and then there was an issue. There was defunding of the fire departments, and there wasn't enough first responders. There wasn't enough water, and it was a mess. And there were lack of resources, outdated policies for sending emergency alerts, and unfortunately, the evacuation warnings were. You saw videos of people trying to flee, and it was a dangerous scene, and many people didn't even get alerts. So, a report commissioned by LA County Supervisor said a series of weaknesses, including outdated policies, inconsistent practices, and communication vulnerabilities. We'll see what happens to him. This was the most destructive fire in California history, spread rapidly. Also, as I said, there was people with electric vehicles in their cars, which unfortunately hindered firefighters' response because these homes couldn't be extinguished when you have an electric vehicle burning in the garage, but nobody's really talking about that. And so this guy needs to burn. I mean, this was, if he started this and the death and destruction. Now, he was arrested he's arraigned in Florida, so we'll see what happens. But we have a society that we've always had individuals like this, but I think even more so, we have, wannabe assassins, people who want destruction. Anarchists, whatever their drive is, and or whatever they call themselves, and it's frightening to think that these are people that it's not the norm. The majority of people are good, but I think we're shocked with what happened with Charlie Kirk, what happened with the assassination attempts on Donald Trump, with, when we look at all these disgusting things that are happening. I think there were 2 young girls that were lured into a van and then raped, tortured, and killed recently. I mean, we have sick individuals that, look at the Hamas attack. To rape kids, breaking their pelvises, shattering their pelvises, killing kids in front of the parents, raping somebody while shooting them in the head. I mean, we have people who are this is worse than animals. Animals don't even do this type of behavior. And that's unfortunately what we're surrounded by in terms of humans. And so I'm glad that those people who were in the Uber car actually, reported the behavior, saying, gosh, she seemed agitated. And that was probably an afterthought, but I'm not sure what made them decide how they knew to talk to these people. They probably did. They probably looked at, who was on the Uber ride and decided to investigate him. And, did you notice any weird behavior? But the fact that they found this guy, bravo. Are there more people out there that want to do the destruction he did? Absolutely. You would think somebody's goal is to be in good with God, to do good to their fellow man and neighbor. And no, I think there are people still plotting right now to do destruction. And I don't know how to deter it when you have somebody completely crazy. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Docadali, 1-877-DOCDALI. So one of your questions is, am I a fan of these weight loss shots? One of my listeners asked, they probably haven't been listening to the show much, and I'm glad you asked that question. Yes and no. I think these GLP-1 agonists have been fantastic for those with diabetes, being able to help them normalize their blood sugars, lose some weight. I think these drugs have been a huge, huge adjunct and have really transformed a lot of diabetic care. In terms of everybody and their mother going on them so they could fit into a bikini and lose weight, I'm a little mixed because of the side effects. I have one friend who is going blind, had sudden vision loss, which is one of the rare side effects with these medications. I've had patients that end up not being able to afford the medication long term, so go off of it, and then they gain the weight back. And the rebound weight gain starts to negate all the good things that the weight loss does. The studies are showing that these GLP-1 agonists with the weight loss of 10 or 20% of your weight can, significantly reduce your risk of cancer, reduce your risk of heart disease, reduce your risk of stroke, dementia. Fantastic studies. But what about those individuals that then can't afford it, or the insurance doesn't cover it, or the medicine is out? So my husband has diabetes, and his doctor, put him on Ozempic, and it took a year to get the insurance to pay for that. And then once his glycohemoglobin started to improve, the insurance wanted to stop paying for it. And he's like, but then my sugar's going to go back up. And then after a lot of arguing, finally, we were able to get insurance, and it was still hundreds of dollars out of pocket. But every time we go to renew it, it's out of stock. So he gets his medicine late. And that's not sustainable. Why is it out of stock? Well, because people are using it for weight loss. And there's just not enough. And they can't make these medications quick enough. And so, can we as a society be on these medications long term? Do we have studies looking at, being on this for 50 years? We have studies of people using these medications for at least 10 years because of the people who have diabetes. But that's not the same population as those who are thin, microdosing, binge eating, and then going, oh, I ate too much, so now I got to starve myself. And how these medicines work is they slow the transit of food and they help increase satiety so you feel more full. But Tracy Morgan and other individuals have said that they just burned right through it. They gained weight. Why? Well, because this is supposed to be a tool, an adjunct. You're not supposed to, go to Outback Steakhouse, order a big steak, and then, expect the shot to Jesus take the wheel. It doesn't work that way. You have to actively say, I'm going to eat less. Unfortunately, what some people are doing are skipping meals altogether. So they skip meals, and then they later rebound, or these medicines just stop working. Well, some side effects have been the loss of eyesight, people's birth control not working as predictably, and some people getting pregnant. The skin changes with weight loss. Now there's a study being reported by AOL where it's throwing off critical medical scans, interfering with the doctor's ability to detect deadly diseases, which could cause delayed diagnosis and treatments for some. Now, apparently, they're looking at how they interfere with PET CT scans. PET CT scans combine two powerful imaging tools to give doctors a detailed picture of what's happening in the body. The PET scan uses a radioactive substance called FDG. It travels through the bloodstream, absorbed by the tissues. Cancer cells and other abnormal cells, like those involved in inflammation, will soak it up because they have a higher metabolic rate. So then you could see where that goes, and then the person possibly has cancer. The PET scanner detects the radiation emitted by the FDG, creates images that highlight where the substance was collected. It's really brilliant imaging. The CT scan provides detailed pictures of the organs and bones, and the combination of the two is brilliant. When combined, you could look at the metabolic activity, you could look at the anatomy, you could look at, and it really does help accelerate your diagnosis or checking for metastatic disease, etc. But they say in patients taking these GLP-1s, doctors have observed unusual patterns of where this FDG goes. And these hot spots in the body can then mask signs of cancer or make healthy tissue look diseased. They said, we noticed unusual uptake in one of our patients on a GLP-1 agonist, which prompted a wider review across our network. We found that these altered patterns are increasingly common, yet there is currently no national or international guidance in the UK addressing this issue. Now, in the U.S., 1 in 8 adults have reported using the medication, like Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro. That was from a 2024 survey. Well, if you're needing scans to check for cancer, okay, you need to make sure that, it's going to pick up what it needs to pick up. You also don't want false positives. And so that is a concern. Doctors warn that misreading these FDG uptake patterns can lead to unnecessary tests, incorrect cancer staging, and dangerous delays in care. So interestingly, the more people are on it, the more I just don't think we know enough about these drugs to, recommend them long term. And I like them, but I'm not 100% on board with everybody going on them. Again, if the weight loss was permanent, you might have me there. But, you go off the medicines and you gain the weight back. No. And, we still can't trust these medications enough to know what it could be doing to our organs. So one of the side effects of these GLP-1 agonists is pancreatitis. Pancreatitis is inflammation of the pancreas. We don't want to mess with the pancreas. That's just something we learned in medical school, and we use a different word than mess, okay? And it rhymes with fire truck. You don't blink with the pancreas. And these medications can cause pancreatitis. Well, pancreatitis and certain cases of it and frequency of it could lead to pancreatic cancer. Now, I'm not saying these medications cause cancer, but it just kind of reminds us of how vulnerable we are. And if somebody said, Daliah, you're going to lose, weight, you'll be 120 pounds, but there might be a small risk of cancer. I could see myself go, well, I really would like to lose the weight, save my heart health and all that. But this isn't permanent. As soon as I go off the medicine, it's going to come back. Not for everybody, but I know for somebody like me, it would probably come back. So my recommendation is if you do have a severe weight problem and you have other medical conditions and you need to lose the weight, you need to lose the weight quickly, make sure it's doctor supervised. I understand a lot of people are getting them online now, compounded forms, things like that. But, make sure you have some guidance with it. And also make sure you're doing a regimen that's healthy. Eat healthy foods. Don't be just eating steak and diet soda, especially since diet soda and regular soda are linked to liver disease, even one a day. I mean, a lot of us have turned to diet soda since the 80s because of weight loss. We wanted something to drink that was less sugar. We wanted to lose weight. Now, even not only are sugary drinks bad for you, but so are diet drinks. But if you're going to go on these medications, take the lowest dose possible, eat healthy, exercise, and try to lose the weight, only using it as a temporary adjunct, I'm in full support. But if you're like, nope, I need to live on this medicine like it's insulin, it's the only thing that's going to keep me skinny, and I'm going to still drink alcohol and do whatever, that's going to be a problem. Now, what's nice is these medications do limit your cravings for alcohol, which is good. So they are looking at these medications for addiction and rehabilitation, which is, fantastic. But then again, what happens when you go off? 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA1. That's 800-JBS-USA1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA1 today.